I never thought my own mother would sell me. But that's exactly what happened. And I didn't even see it coming until it was too late. Let me take you back to where it all started. I was 23 years old, working at a small architecture firm in the city. The pay wasn't great, but I loved what I did. Every day, I got to sketch and design buildings that could actually help people. My big dream was to create affordable housing for families who couldn't afford those fancy apartments downtown. I know it sounds simple, but it meant everything to me. I lived with my mom in the same house I grew up in. It was just the two of us most of the time, plus my younger brother who was still in high school. My dad had left when I was 12, and my mom never let me forget it. She'd bring it up whenever we argued, whenever I wanted something different than what she planned. "Your father abandoned us," she'd say. "I'm the only one who stayed. I'm the only one who sacrificed everything for you kids." And I believed her. For years, I believed every word. My mom had always been intense about my appearance. She'd buy me clothes I didn't like, book salon appointments without asking, and get upset if I didn't dress up when we went out. "You're so beautiful," she'd tell me. "You could have any man you want. You could have such a better life." I thought she just wanted me to be confident. I didn't understand what she was really doing. She was preparing her investment. Everything changed at a charity gala in March. My boss had extra tickets and invited a few of us from the office. I almost didn't go because these events weren't really my thing, but my mom insisted. She even went out and bought me an expensive dress that I knew we couldn't afford. "Trust me," she said. "You need to make connections. This is how successful people get ahead." At the event, I mostly stayed near the appetizer table, feeling out of place in my too fancy dress. That's when I noticed this older man staring at me from across the room. He looked like he was in his 40s, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. I turned away, hoping he'd lose interest. But then my mom, who had somehow convinced me to let her come along as my +1, practically dragged me over to him. "This is my daughter," she announced, like she was presenting a prize. "She's an architect. Very talented. Very smart." His name was Richard, and he owned a real estate development company. He was polite, soft-spoken, and clearly wealthy. We talked for maybe 10 minutes about buildings and the city's housing crisis. It was a normal conversation, nothing special. But the way my mom watched us, the way she smiled, made my skin crawl. After that night, things got weird. Richard started showing up at places where I happened to be. The coffee shop near my office. The art gallery I visited on weekends. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then I realized my mom had been telling him my schedule. She'd given him my routines like she was handing over a manual on how to find me. Flowers started arriving at my workplace. Expensive ones. Then dinner invitations always passed through my mother first. She'd accept on my behalf before I even knew about them. "Don't be rude," she'd scold when I protested. "He's a successful man showing interest in you. Do you know how lucky you are?" I tried to shut it down. I really did. I told Richard I wasn't interested in dating anyone. He seemed to understand, but the gifts kept coming. Designer handbags appeared at our house, jewelry boxes with my name on them. My mom accepted everything. She started wearing some of the jewelry herself. Then one evening, my mom asked me to come to the kitchen table. She had papers spread out everywhere, and her hands were shaking. "I need to tell you something," she said, and her voice cracked in that way that always made me feel guilty before I even knew what I'd done wrong. She was in debt. Serious debt. Almost $300,000. I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. "How?" I whispered. She started crying, talking about investments that went wrong, about credit cards she used to keep our family afloat after my dad left, about loans she took to pay for my education. Some of it was true. My grandmother had recently passed away, and I knew there were medical bills. But as she kept talking, I noticed she didn't mention the casino trips, the shopping bags that appeared every week, the girls' weekends at expensive resorts. "They're going to take the house," she sobbed. "We'll have nowhere to go. Your brother will have to drop out of school. Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, it'll all be gone." I felt sick. "We'll figure something out," I said. "I can take out a loan, maybe get a second job." "There's another option," she interrupted, and something in her tone made me freeze. "Richard has offered to help." I should have seen it coming. I should have known. But even then, sitting at that kitchen table with my mom's tear-stained face in front of me, I couldn't imagine what she was about to say. "He cares about you," she continued. "He's a good man, stable, successful. And he's willing to take care of everything. All of it. The debt, the house, your brother's education. Everything." "What are you talking about?" I asked, even though part of me already knew. "He wants to marry you." The words hung in the air like poison. I started laughing because it was so absurd. "Mom, I barely know him. I don't love him. I don't even like him that way. He's almost twice my age. Love?" She said the word like it was stupid. "Love doesn't pay bills. Love didn't keep your father here. This is about survival, about family. Are you really so selfish that you'd let your own mother lose everything? Let your brother's future get destroyed because you're waiting for some fairy tale?" I stood up, knocking my chair backward. "You can't be serious. You can't actually be asking me to." "I'm not asking," she said quietly, and her tears had stopped. Her face was hard now, determined. "I'm telling you what needs to happen. You have a chance to save this family. Richard is a good man. He'll treat you well. You'll have everything you could ever want." "Except a choice," I whispered. She looked away. "We all make sacrifices. That's what family does." I left the kitchen and locked myself in my room. I called my best friend, told her everything, and started packing a bag. I was going to leave. I was going to run away and start over somewhere else, anywhere else. But then I thought about my brother. He was only 16, still innocent, still believed in our ma. If I left, who would protect him? And that's when I realized my mother knew exactly what she was doing. She'd built a cage so perfect, so complete, that every door I tried to open just led to another wall. The next morning, I found my mom in the living room with Richard. They were looking at engagement rings in a catalog, discussing dates like I'd already said yes, like my answer had never mattered at all. The engagement happened without a proposal. There was no romantic moment, no getting down on one knee, no question asked. One Sunday afternoon, my mom invited some relatives over for dinner. I thought it was just a normal family gathering. I was so wrong. Halfway through the meal, my mom stood up and clinked her glass like people do at weddings. "Everyone, I have wonderful news to share," she announced, her voice bright and cheerful. "My daughter is getting married to Richard." The room erupted in congratulations. Aunts rushed over to hug me. My uncle shook Richard's hand. And I just sat there frozen, a fake smile plastered on my face, while my world crumbled. Richard pulled out a ring box from his jacket pocket, like this had all been rehearsed. The diamond was huge, catching the light as he slid it onto my finger. It felt cold and heavy, like a handcuff. Nobody asked if I was happy. Nobody seemed to notice that I hadn't said a single word. That night, after everyone left, I confronted my mom. "How could you do that? I never agreed to this." She was washing dishes, her back to me. "You didn't say no either, because you didn't give me a chance. You just announced it like it was already decided." She turned around, and her face was calm, almost peaceful. "It is decided. The family knows now. Richard's family knows. You can't back out without humiliating everyone, including yourself. Is that what you want? To be known as the girl who embarrassed a good man in front of everyone?" I felt trapped. She was right about one thing. Now that it was public, backing out would create a scandal. Our family would talk about it forever. Richard's business associates had been at the dinner. The shame would follow me everywhere, but I had to try something. I had to fight back. I started planning to leave. My best friend from college, the one person I could trust completely, lived in another state. I called her late one night, whispering into my phone like a prisoner planning an escape. "I'll help you," she promised. "Just get here, and we'll figure everything out." I began hiding money from each paycheck. Just small amounts that wouldn't be noticed. I looked at apartment listings in different cities, applied for jobs online, created a whole exit strategy. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. I could actually do this. I could get away. Then my mom found the bus ticket I'd printed. I came home from work one Tuesday evening, and she was sitting in the dark living room, just waiting. The ticket was on the coffee table in front of her. "What is this?" she asked quietly. My heart stopped. "Mom, I can't do this. I can't marry someone I don't love. Please, try to understand." She stood up, and I thought she was going to yell. Instead, she clutched her chest and collapsed onto the couch. "I can't breathe," she gasped. "Call an ambulance." I panicked. I called for help, rode with her to the hospital, held her hand while she was hooked up to machines. The doctors ran tests. EKG, blood work, everything. And they found nothing wrong. Sometimes stress and anxiety can mimic heart attack symptoms, the doctor explained. She should rest and try to reduce stress in her life. But my mom played it perfectly. "The stress is killing me," she whispered to me in her hospital bed, her voice weak and fragile. "Knowing my own daughter wants to abandon me, leave me to deal with everything alone. I don't know if my heart can take it." I knew what she was doing. Part of me knew it was manipulation. But what if I was wrong? What if the stress really was hurting her? What if I left and something actually happened to her? Could I live with that guilt? She was released from the hospital the next day. I threw away the bus ticket. The wedding planning started immediately. My mom scheduled everything. The venue, the caterer, the photographer. She picked my dress without me, chose flowers I'd never liked, invited people I barely knew. I went along with it all like a ghost floating through someone else's life. Richard was surprisingly patient with me during this time. He never demanded affection or attention. He'd take me to dinner, and we'd sit in expensive restaurants, making small talk about architecture and weather. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't even unkind. In some ways, it made it worse. If he'd been a monster, maybe people would understand why I didn't want this. But he was just a lonely man who thought money could buy companionship. "I know this isn't ideal for you," he said one evening over dinner. "But I promise I'll be good to you. You'll have everything you need. You can keep working if you want, or not. Whatever makes you happy. Everything except freedom," I thought. Everything except choice. The worst part was watching my mom enjoy it all. She started coming to Richard's office building for lunch, getting spa treatments at expensive salons, showing up at our apartment planning sessions wearing new designer clothes. Richard never said no to her requests. She'd hint that she needed something, and he'd arrange it. A new car, because her old one was unreliable. Money for her friend's business venture. First-class tickets to visit relatives out of state. I realized I wasn't just being sold once. I was the gift that kept on giving. My brother noticed something was wrong. One night, he came to my room and sat on the edge of my bed. "Are you okay?" he asked. "You seem sad all the time now." I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to explain how our mother had sold me to pay off gambling debts and credit card bills. But he was only 16. He still thought our mom was a hero, a single mother who'd sacrificed everything for us. How could I destroy that for him? "I'm just stressed about the wedding," I lied. "It's a lot to plan." He hugged me. "Richard seems nice. I think you'll be happy." I hugged him back and said nothing. The dress fittings were the hardest. I'd stand on a platform while strangers pinned fabric around me, talking about how beautiful I'd look, how lucky I was. My mom would sit in a chair nearby, sipping champagne provided by the bridal shop, critiquing every detail. "Take it in more at the waist. She needs to look perfect. This is the most important day of her life." I wanted to scream that the most important day of my life wouldn't be one where I signed it away. 2 weeks before the wedding, I tried one last time. I went to my mom privately when no one else was around. "Please," I begged. "Please don't make me do this. We can find another way to deal with the debt. I'll work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. I'll do anything. Just please don't make me marry him." She looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. It wasn't anger or sadness. It was complete indifference. "The invitations are sent. The deposits are paid. The contracts are signed. This is happening whether you like it or not. You need to grow up and accept reality." "Reality is that you're selling your daughter," I said. "Reality is that I'm saving this family," she corrected. "And someday, when you're living in luxury and your brother graduates from a good college, you'll thank me." I never tried to run again. What was the point? Every escape route led back to the same cage. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday. I had 5 days left of freedom, and I still had no idea how to save myself. The wedding was beautiful. Everyone said so. The flowers were perfect, the music was elegant, and my dress fit like it was made for royalty. 200 guests watched me walk down the aisle on my uncle's arm because my father wasn't there to do it. I smiled for the cameras. I said my vows. I kissed Richard when the officiant told us to, and inside, I felt absolutely nothing. It was like watching someone else's life happen. Like I was floating above my own body, observing a stranger in a white dress pretending to be happy. My mom cried during the ceremony, dabbing at her eyes with an expensive handkerchief. People probably thought they were tears of joy. I knew better. They were tears of relief. She'd pulled it off. She'd successfully traded her daughter for financial freedom. The reception was worse. I had to dance with Richard while everyone watched. I had to cut cake and pose for photos and accept congratulations from people who thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. "He's such a catch," my aunt whispered to me. "You'll never have to worry about money again." Money. It always came back to money. That night, Richard and I went to his penthouse. Our penthouse now, I guess. It was on the 40th floor of a building downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the entire city. Everything inside was expensive and cold. Marble counters, designer furniture, art that probably cost more than most people's cars. It felt like a museum, not a home. Richard was gentle that night. He didn't push me or demand anything. "I know this is an adjustment," he said quietly. "Take whatever time you need." I'm a patient man. I nodded and went to the guest bedroom. He didn't stop me. That's how our marriage began. Richard went to work early and came home late. We'd eat dinner together sometimes, making polite conversation about our days. He was kind in his own distant way. He never raised his voice, never made demands. We lived like roommates in an expensive apartment, orbiting around each other but never really connecting. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could just exist in this arrangement, go through the motions, Survived. Then I found out I was pregnant. I missed my period and didn't think much of it at first. Stress can do that. But when I missed the second one, I bought a test. I took it in the bathroom at work because I couldn't bear to do it at the penthouse. When those two lines appeared, I sat on the bathroom floor and cried until my coworker knocked on the door, asking if I was okay. I wasn't okay. I was trapped in a marriage I never wanted, and now there would be a child. A baby who didn't ask to be born into this mess. Richard was thrilled when I told him. His whole face lit up in a way I'd never seen before. "This is wonderful," he said, already planning nurseries and talking about baby names. He called my mom immediately, and she came over that same evening with champagne to celebrate. They toasted to the future. Wow. I sat there feeling like my cage had just gotten smaller. My mom visited more often after that. She'd show up at the penthouse unannounced, bringing baby clothes she'd bought on Richard's credit card. She'd talk about her plans to be the best grandmother, about how this baby would have everything she never got to give me and my brother. She never asked how I was feeling. She never noticed that I barely spoke anymore. One afternoon, she arrived with shopping bags full of designer maternity clothes. "You need to look good," she said, holding up dresses that cost thousands of dollars. Richard has a reputation to maintain. Something inside me snapped. "Is that all I am to you?" I asked quietly. "A way to maintain someone's reputation? A way to keep living the luxury life?" She stopped, a dress still in her hands. "Don't be dramatic. I'm serious, Mom. Do you even care that I'm miserable? Do you care that I never wanted any of this?" She put the dress down and looked at me with cold eyes. "You have a beautiful home, a husband who provides for you, and a baby on the way. Some people would kill for this life. Your problem is that you're ungrateful. My problem is that I never had a choice. We all make sacrifices," she said, the same line she'd been using for months. "That's what adults do." After she left, I looked around the penthouse. Everything was perfect and empty. I was living in a golden cage, and now I was bringing a baby into it too. That's when something changed in me. I looked down at my stomach, still flat, but growing a life inside, and I made a promise. My baby would never be what I became. My baby would grow up knowing she had choices, that she was worth more than money or status or making other people happy. But first, I needed to figure out how to save both of us. I started seeing a therapist. I told Richard the first needed it for pregnancy anxiety, which wasn't entirely a lie. He paid for it without question. Dr. Chun was the first person I told the whole truth to. Everything. The debt. The manipulation. The forced marriage. All of it. "What you're describing is coercive control," she said during our third session. "Your mother created a situation where you felt you had no options. That's a form of abuse." Hearing it out loud, labeled as what it actually was, made something click in my brain. I wasn't ungrateful. I wasn't selfish. I was a victim of my own mother's manipulation. What do I do? I asked. "You start setting boundaries," she said. "Small ones at first. You reclaim pieces of yourself." So I did. I started saying no to my mom's unannounced visits. "Call first," I told her. She acted hurt, but I held firm. I stopped accepting gifts she bought on Richard's accounts. When she tried to make decisions about the baby, I shut it down. "I'm the mother," I said. "I'll decide." She didn't like it. She called me ungrateful, selfish, cruel. She tried the guilt trips that had always worked before. But therapy was giving me strength I didn't know I had. The biggest surprise came from Richard. One evening, about 6 months into my pregnancy, he asked to talk. We sat in the living room, and he looked uncomfortable, like he was preparing for something difficult. "I've been thinking," he started, "about us, about how we got here." My heart raced. Was he going to divorce me? Kick me out? I know you didn't want to marry me, he continued. I've always known. Your mother made it clear that this was a business arrangement. She needed money. I wanted a wife, and you were the transaction. I stared at him, shocked he was finally saying it out loud. I convinced myself it would be okay, he said, that maybe you'd grow to care for me, or at least accept the situation. But I've watched you become a shell of yourself these past months, and I don't feel good about it. What are you saying? I whispered. He leaned forward, his hands clasped together. I'm saying I want to give you a choice. Maybe for the first time. We can keep going as we are, or we can be honest with each other and figure out what you actually want. For the first time since this nightmare began, someone was asking what I wanted, and I had no idea how to answer. I sat there staring at Richard, trying to process what he just said. Someone was finally asking what I wanted. After months of being told what to do, where to go, how to feel, someone was giving me permission to have an opinion about my own life. I don't know what I want, I admitted, and my voice cracked. I've spent so long just trying to survive that I forgot how to think about what I actually want. Richard nodded slowly. Then maybe we figure it out together. No more pretending. No more arrangements made behind your back. Just honesty. Over the next few weeks, Richard and I started actually talking. Real conversations, not the polite small talk we'd been hiding behind. He told me about his own loneliness, how he'd built a successful company but had no one to share it with. How he'd convinced himself that a transactional marriage was better than being alone. I thought I could make you happy with money, he said one night. I thought that's what everyone wanted. But I've watched you in this penthouse, surrounded by expensive things, and you look like you're in prison. Because I am, I said softly. He was quiet for a moment. What if we changed the arrangement? What do you mean? What if we became partners instead of prisoner and captor? We're having a baby together. That's real, whether we planned it or not. But maybe we can build something honest for her sake. It wasn't love. It wasn't romance. But it was the first time someone treated me like an equal in months. Not my daughter was born on a Tuesday morning in April. The moment they placed her in my arms, everything shifted. She was tiny and perfect, with dark eyes that seemed to look right through me. I named her Lily, after my grandmother, the only family member who'd ever truly protected me. Looking at Lily, I made a promise. She would never be a bargaining chip. She would never be sold or traded or used. She would grow up knowing she had value beyond what she could do for other people. My mom came to the hospital, of course. She brought expensive baby gifts and took dozens of photos for social media. My grandbaby, she cooed, posting pictures with captions about being blessed. She held Lily like a prop, an accessory to her new lifestyle. But when she tried to make decisions about the baby, about feeding schedules and sleeping arrangements and nannies, I said no. I'm her mother, I said firmly. I'll decide what's best for her. My mom's smile froze. I'm just trying to help. I don't need that kind of help. She didn't like it. Over the next few months, I watched her try every manipulation tactic she'd used on me for years. Guilt trips about how she'd raised me and deserved respect. Tears about being pushed away. Threats to tell Richard's family what an ungrateful daughter I was. But something had changed in me. Becoming a mother had awakened something fierce and protective. Every time my mom tried to control me, I thought about Lily, about what kind of example I was setting. About breaking the cycle, I started setting real boundaries. My mom couldn't visit without calling first. She couldn't make purchases on Richard's accounts anymore. She couldn't post photos of Lily on social media without my permission. And most importantly, she couldn't be alone with my daughter. That last one sent her over the edge. You don't trust your own mother with your baby? She screamed during one visit. After everything I've done for you? You mean after you sold me to pay off your gambling debts? I said quietly. Her face went pale. How dare you? I saved this family. You saved yourself, I corrected. And you used me to do it. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. You're being ridiculous. When you come to your senses and stop being so selfish, you know where to find me. She left, and I felt lighter than I had in a year. But my mom wasn't done fighting. She started calling other family members, painting me as an ungrateful daughter who'd cut her off for no reason. She told them I was keeping her granddaughter away from her. She played the victim so convincingly that my aunt called to lecture me about respecting my mother. She gave up everything for you, my aunt said. And this is how you repay her? I almost explained everything. Almost told her about the debt, the forced marriage, all of it. But I realized it wouldn't matter. My mom had spent years building this narrative of the sacrificial single mother. People believed what they wanted to believe. So I stopped trying to defend myself to relatives who'd already made up their minds. The real change came from an unexpected source. Richard's sister, Catherine, came to visit when Lily was about 4 months old. She was in her 50s, elegant and direct in a way that reminded me of my grandmother. We'd met briefly at the wedding, but hadn't really talked. She held Lily and watched me for a long moment. You look exhausted, she said. New baby, I said with a weak smile. Comes with the territory. It's not just that. She handed Lily back to me. I know about the arrangement. My blood ran cold. What? Richard told me. About your mother's debts. About the marriage being a transaction. About you never having a real choice. She sat down across from me. I want you to know something. 25 years ago, I was in a similar situation. Different details, same trap. My father forced me into an engagement with a business partner. He told me it was my duty to the family. What did you do? I whispered. I ran, she said simply. Lost my family, lost my inheritance, spent years rebuilding my life from nothing. But I got out. She leaned forward. I'm not saying you should do what I did. You have a baby now. But I am saying you have options. And you have people who will help you. That conversation changed everything. Catherine became an ally. She'd been through something similar and understood in a way no one else could. She started coming by regularly, not to judge or advise, but just to listen. Through her, I learned that Richard had been genuinely conflicted about our arrangement, that he'd talked to Catherine about it months ago, feeling guilty. That's when I realized Richard wasn't the villain in my story. He was just a lonely man who'd made a bad choice. The real villain was the person who was supposed to protect me. I started working again, part-time from home. I'd put my architecture dreams on hold, but I began taking online courses, slowly rebuilding the career I'd abandoned. Richard paid for the courses without question. You should have something that's yours, he said. Meanwhile, my mom's visits became less frequent. When she did come, she'd spend the whole time making passive-aggressive comments about how I was raising Lily wrong, how I was making terrible decisions, how ungrateful I was. During one particularly bad visit, she actually said, I should have known you'd turn out like your father, selfish and ungrateful. And that's when I knew I was done trying to maintain a relationship with someone who only saw me as an investment. I think you should leave, I said calmly. Excuse me? Leave, and don't come back until you're ready to respect my boundaries and treat me like a person instead of a transaction. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. She left in a fury, slamming the door hard enough to wake Lily. As I comforted my crying baby, I realized something important for the first time in my life. I'd chosen myself, and it felt like freedom.